The best decision I ever made was stepping into my own business. I got a job at PlayStation. Would you like to come on board for the Ryder Cup Trust?
I never set out to run a business. All I wanted to do was make films and television programmes. But a decade and a half later, I find myself leading a team, growing a company, and still asking myself, how on earth did I get here? That's why I created this podcast, for people like me who've had to push through doubts, insecurities, and barriers to build something great. Each episode, I'll sit down with founders and business leaders to talk openly about the mistakes, the wins, the imposter syndrome, and all the lessons we wish we'd known sooner. If you're trying to scale, grow a team, or simply feel less alone on the journey, this is your space for honest, unfiltered conversations about what it really takes to run a business. This is The Reluctant CEO. Welcome to the Reluctant CEO podcast. I'm Phil Arkinstall, the Reluctant CEO. Today I'm joined by Martin Crook, who runs the accountancy firm Adams Moore. Martin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Phil. Great to be here.
Could I first start off by asking you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your sort of business journey, how you've got to where you've got to today?
Yeah, of course. So I started off, grew up in Birmingham. Dad was as a jeweller in the jewellery quarter. I'm sure he assumed that's where I would go. So every Saturday I would be working with him, sweeping the floors. But decided to disappoint my parents and go off to university and studied accountancy. Left university, got a job with ready mix concrete, the old orange truck mixers that would go round in a finance graduate position. And really that started my finance career. Left there after a few years because I got a job at PlayStation. So going from ready mix concrete that grew at 0.01% a year to, it was that long ago, it was the PlayStation 2 days, where they would grow phenomenally, was a great challenge. And that was my first sort of introduction to a senior leadership role within finance. And really that's where I saw my career going. Going into the boardroom, speaking about the management accounts, the stat accounts, tax savings and margins and structures. And that's where I was really comfortable. Except when as that grew, I was hoping for a promotion to Australia. I got one to Hemel Hempstead, which is not quite the same. So at that point, there was a couple of contacts and clients that I'd built up over those years. I said, would you do what you do for PlayStation, but for us 1 day a week? And started my own business. Never really considered growing it. I'd become a sort of an outsourced FD. And that was 22 years ago now. Right. But very quickly, people come on to you and go, can you do my VAT return? Can you do the statutory accounts? Of course, being in finance in a large company, no, I couldn't. So I started Adams Moore with a partner at the time, and we started growing. And it was great. We started out in Tamworth because that's where my partner lived at the time, and we grew it slowly, employing people in payroll, VAT, and obviously accountants. So Christmas dues aren't ever that much fun with a load of accountants in the room, but and we started growing it. So it was with a partnership. Which was great fun, worked really well. And then as most businesses, you have different objectives to your partner. I was very much wanting to grow. They were just keeping it the same, and I was quite happy. So about 11, 12 years ago now, we split up, and I took Adams Moore on. And it was the best decision we ever made. So now we've, over the last sort of 10 years, we've doubled the size of the business. It's been really great. We've doubled the people there, and we've gone through 2 offices, and it's just been a really great journey from being a management accountant to, and I'm sure listeners disagree as an accountant, but you become more of a businessman and leading a company rather than being the safe pair of hands, that just tell the sales director and the managing director what they've already done. So it's been a brilliant journey, and we are today. I've absolutely loved every minute. I've made loads of mistakes, but it's been something I've thoroughly enjoyed. And looking back now, the best decision I ever made was stepping into my own business, because it's been such a learning curve.
Fantastic. So going back to the sort of, like you said, working with your dad in the jewellery
Yes.
shop. So what was going through your mind then? Because that's obviously a massively different sort of pathway, if you like, professional service versus, you know, a trade, if you like.
Yeah.
Is it fair to call it a trade?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was the logic behind that?
Well, I think you're all a product of your upbringing.
Yeah.
And I can remember Dad working really long hours, and we were always struggling. And that's what kept with me. When I'd work with him, he was going, well, no one wants to buy rings anymore, quality rings. It's as the supermarkets would go and buy dress jewellery, everyone was there. So we did a really great job of not selling his business.
Right, okay,
really.
fair enough.
So it came, you know, it came to me, and sort of, it's quite sad. I quite enjoyed school, so the studying was the most. And you look at your mum and dad, and they were great, but gosh, they worked hard.
Yeah.
For next to nothing. And there's something in there that made me go, right, this is my journey. This is where I want to go. And always liked figures. I was very fascinated with economics.
Yes.
And as my lad would say now, I'm a complete buff on economic history, and
Okay.
those businesses that grew fascinated me.
Yeah,
So that was always where my passion lies. Really, it wasn't, and certainly I was rubbish at making jewellery, as anybody will know. I'm completely rubbish at DIY or working practically. So it made sense.
Yeah. So then PlayStation sounds like a great opportunity. Massive corporate.
Yes.
How does that leap work then? Is that just applying for a job and being successful?
Yeah, absolutely. At the time, Ready Mix Concrete were brought out by a French company, and we could choose to stay there. But I chose to move, and certainly that fast-paced environment. At the time, we were very much looking to get video games into supermarkets, and that fascinated me. The growth there of a new industry. I have to say, at the time, I couldn't play any computer games. Anything that a 6-year-old can beat me at didn't really fit. But that, going from a company that was always stable to something, yes, it was a big corporate, but in those days you had the power to make decisions. And very early we were, should we sign this contract with this supermarket or that one, or should we, how many, you know, games of Call of Duty should we order in from the US? And those are, all of a sudden, people were looking at me to do that. And that really gave me that bit of spark of entrepreneurial spirit. That was like, that was where that came from. Great learning, because as a young sort of commercial director and a finance director there, it was, I thought I needed a lot of help. So we had auditors at the time. I would phone those, and I got no response, and sort of felt a little bit on my own. So when I set up my own practice, that was the first thing that would come in. Actually, I've always got a passion for the regular quarterly management meetings, but also to give business owners that real support that they need, not only for their business, for them personally.
So you've worked your way through different roles. You then decide with your business partner to sort of set the company up. I mean, how did you view sort of leadership at that stage? Did you think, well, we need a team of accountants, or various different roles within the structure, or was it very much like, we'll do it together, just the two of us, and we'll deliver everything?
If I'm being brutally honest, there wasn't a plan really. I was really strong with finance leadership, being in the boardroom there. Business leadership, not a clue really. And so there was a need to employ staff. Was there a plan? Did we? This is awful as accountants. Did we write the business plan? Did we look at that? No, we didn't. It was very much, well, we've won some payroll clients. Let's employ someone to do payroll. We need some VAT. And in all honesty, really chaotic. And I was learning on the job. It's very much, when you're in a finance role, you've got a comfort zone. You're not dealing with people, customers, and and all of the time you can hide behind the chief exec. And all of a sudden you're at the front. And we were such a small business at the start. We got up to sort of 5 or 6 staff rather quickly, but it was just 5 or 6. There wasn't an essence of a team. There wasn't an essence of a plan. I sort of took the sales director role, I suppose, very quickly, and went out and got clients in. My partner was very much more the operational stuff, but there was no plan. Did we have regular partner meetings? No, we didn't. We just went out, and it was from the first 5 or 6 years really a complete mess. And I think looking back on that now, and I love the title of the podcast, I set the business up just to go and be an outsourced FD. And very quickly you're looking at, staff coming in going, well, I've got this problem at home. How can you help with that? And I was completely ill-equipped to do that at that point. So did we go slower than what we were? Yes, but that's because we wasn't really, I think both of us, if we're being brutally honest, never had a plan we never had a vision of where the company was going to go to. It was very much, can we take our monthly, amounts to pay the mortgage and pay the shopping and to feed the kids? Great. And once we'd done that, we'll start again the next month. And that was poor from my point of view. And I probably wasted 4 or 5 years.
And to be fair, I feel the same with my business. It's and that is, as you say, the title of the podcast, Reluctant CEO, because my background was I edited TV shows and videos, and then there was a love of making the content. And the industry's changed beyond recognition in the last few years, but the sort of the product was key. It was all about the product, and actually then layering people into that and process and all the other stuff. It took Art Media a while to get off the ground as well. And I look back, and it sounds like you might have a similar sort of thought. Is if you knew that from day one and had that plan, knew exactly the sort of process maps and the amount of people you required, it would flow and go a lot quicker. You could grow rapidly, and I think there's definitely a lesson in there for young entrepreneurs. It's be quite clear with what your ambition is, what your target is, but also that learning piece. You can learn on the job, but I think if you're just learning on the job and don't have the formality of training and a bit of education underpinning it, it takes a lot longer. And I know for me, that's definitely the biggest, I wouldn't say regret, because I've enjoyed my journey, but I sort of wish we could have accelerated a lot quicker in those first 3 years. It sounds very similar journey, but then again, because you deal with a lot of different companies, I assume you're probably hearing this story quite a lot.
Absolutely, and it's the best part of my job. I mean, my job now is inspiring the staff to be a real great cohesive team and advising clients. The advising clients it doesn't matter whether you're video editing, accountant, a builder, a manufacturing company over, in the Black Country. The business leaders all get to the same role, and it is inspiring staff, making sure the pipeline's there, and that's what fascinates me, and it's the best part of my job, is dealing with those business leaders. But I can remember I went on holiday, must have been about 15 years ago now, and I sat down, we're down in Dartmouth, down in Devon, and kids are playing up and this, that and the other. So I went to the pub to answer some emails, and I stopped answering emails, and I can remember shutting the computer over, open a blank piece of paper, and started writing down what I wanted to do, because I just felt I'd become the very much accountant that I didn't want to be. I reacting to people, and I've always wanted to be, especially my business, when I was in corporate, be that proactive, forward thinking, forward looking, telling people what problems are coming, and I wasn't doing that. So I sat down, I started then, waited my kids were young at the time, wife was quite tired, because I'd probably disappeared to the pub to answer emails, so that's fair enough. They all went to bed, and I kept on going through the night going, right, where's our target market, what we wanted to be? And that's where Total Support for You and Your Business came from. It was the one thing I didn't want to do a corporate strapline, because that's what I'm about, but it really did help me go, whatever we do, that's what it's giving total support to our clients and their businesses. And then under that was like, how are we going to do that? Well, I've got to have a great team.
Yeah.
I've got to have a great team to deliver it because I can't do everything. And then we have got to build trust with our clients. And from there, I was writing pages of, right, this is the vision that we want to be. And it's the most helpful thing I've ever done. Did I have training to do it? No. But I came back off that holiday and going, right, my time has got to be spent clients or staff.
Yeah.
Anything else, if the bins haven't been emptied, if the internet's broken down, if, you know, a window was broken, I've got to get people to a team to do that.
Yeah.
My focus has got to be, are we giving great service and are we making sure that our staff are having a great time? And that was the most important thing for me.
But I think what's really fascinating in that story is what was the trigger, other than perhaps you're on holiday, maybe you got a bit more thinking time, although the kids are obviously there. But all those years have passed and something in your head says, actually, I need to get this down now and I need to be quite clear with where I'm going. So that eureka moment that actually created a plan, I mean, is it just the circumstance of you had got enough experience to start thinking, actually, I need to start?
There was definitely that.
This.
We'd got enough to grow.
Yeah.
So there was definitely, we'd got a team in place. But it was very much of, I was just answering it. I'd gone to the pub to log on to Wi-Fi and just to answer 50 or 60 emails.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not leadership, that's very much reactive. And I was going through and I could see I'd answered about 20, I'd got another 30 to go. And I knew that was going to come back, so I'd be doing the same the next time.
Yeah.
And that's not being I was so reactive. And I just sat there and I just felt that's not what I should be doing. And it's really clear. I can remember it. It was an uncomfortable chair on a rickety old table in an oldie worldy pub, drinking my favourite beer, and I was just like, no, there's got to be a better way, because otherwise we're never going to grow. We're going to be in this, making good margin, employing sort of 5 to 6 people. Yeah, it was okay, but it was okay, and that was, I might as well just gone and get back into an FD type role.
Yeah.
But yeah, answering those emails was the eureka moment for me.
No. So slightly off the grid.
Sorry.
That's all right. So, I mean, one of the things that you mentioned there is like working with people, whether that's your staff or with customers. How does someone go from, like, obviously a love of economics and maths, I assume, to which, you know, you could stereotype that and say you sit there number crunching all day. How does that fit then with this persona of, actually, no, I want to go out, meet people, get to know people, build relationships?
I think firstly, it's needs must. I have to say one of the most important things is there's 3 partners in our firm, Abby and Sandra. Sandra's worked with us now for probably 15 years, and she's such a better accountant than I am. She's the glue that holds our company together, so she looks after quality and everything. And employing her we were sitting down in partners meetings, and she was a far better accountant, looking at the figures, looking at quality. And I was like, well, how am I going to make a difference? So for me, that was I could then fully focus on being the leader and the manager of the company. So I could then rely on someone that has got my back there. And so I've always enjoyed being with people, I suppose, as well as the numbers, but that gave me the confidence that if I was out, everything's not going to fall apart. So it's very strange as a business owner, especially a small business owner. You get forced, even though it's your company, the company forces you to do things you don't necessarily want to do. So I was like, if this is going to grow to be something we're all proud of, I've got to take that non-accountant role. Stepping outside my comfort zone then. I can remember cold calling, hated every minute, stuttering, horrible, looking at how we can get our marketing better, awful at it. Looking at leading people, I was very much called into, in my corporate world, you know, we want to sack this person, get them out of the business quick as possible. All of a sudden, inspiring that person. So there is no structure to that. It's saying a vision, and not only speaking that to the staff, standing up in front of all the staff, trying to create and get them all to buy into a vision that we're all part of.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the most scariest thing you have to do, but you look at it and go, right, well, this is your job. So there's a bit of front up, and do it. And I was utterly rubbish at it first. And yes, you've got to keep yourself, but you've also got to look at other people and how they dealing with it. And I think that's the benefit I have, is that we've got around about, well, just under 1,000 limited company clients, and I can look at those business owners and go, oh, they would do it like that. So that's my training, and looking at how our clients did it. And I was thoroughly excited about being invited to client Christmas dues, because they'd do a little company update, and I'd be there at the back going, yeah, I want to be like that. I can do that. And so you start learning.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. So is there a part of you that misses the actual accountancy? Do you want to be sat in front of a spreadsheet anymore, or is that gone now?
It's going, and I think yes, absolutely there was. There is nothing like sometimes just to go, actually, I will go and get a spreadsheet, do a forecast. But we have a little saying in that, stop nicking work off the kids. It's sort of like, if I'm doing that somebody who's better at doing that can be doing it. So I have to kick myself. But yes, you're right. There is that. I would like to return to what I could do, because I still think I can do it pretty good, but I'm wasting my time. So it's having that sort of that little voice in your head go, no, that's not your job. Start behaving.
The thing I felt within my business is that as time moves on, things change quite rapidly. Cameras change, edit suites change, the AI sort of effect on things as well. So actually, the people now doing the jobs within the team are far better than I am. Some of them are far better than I ever was at certain particular roles within the business, and I think that is good to empower other people to do it, but it also does show your own journey, really. And I suppose, is that the same in accounting? You know, is there stuff that's come through? Numbers are still numbers, but the way you deliver, through HMRC's portals and all the other stuff, has that changed now? So perhaps you couldn't do the day job as much as you used to be able to.
And you're spot on. I think that's the biggest change, because when I first started, so for argument's sake, Sage would be the only system. Now you've got Sage, Xero, QuickBooks, which give great online access and real-time data. That's not me. No. I've not done that now, and that's really helped me as a leader. That I can't dip back in, because I don't know how to do that. Online filing with HMRC. Purposely, I don't know how to do it. But I know how important it is. But and also, especially in our world, probably not AI so much yet, although it's come, but automation within the accountancy. If you see somebody typing from one spreadsheet into another one, what a waste of time. AI can do that. So should I be an expert on automation AI? Absolutely not. But should I be able to go, that can impact in our business? So we know, even 10 years ago, we just had accountants. I've now got majority accountants, but there's 2 IT accountants who are looking at that automation and how we can do things better. And they're experts in that field. So, but I've got to recognise that that's the change we need. And then I love speaking to them, because I know nothing compared to those, but I'm like, but this is what the impact I want on the business. And I felt that's really helped, almost not knowing how to do it.
Absolutely. I think there's a part of growing a business where you can't do everything anymore. And if you can, then the business hasn't really evolved at all, and it's still where it was when you were on the tools, so to speak. And I think, that does sort of perhaps show that maybe the business's potential to grow isn't actually that strong if it still is operating exactly the same way it was when you were actually doing the work as well. So there's definitely there's a lot of merit in passing that knowledge on and not trying to learn everything. So you're starting this growth journey. You've separated from your partner.
Yeah.
What did growth look like from that point?
At the start, really messy.
Mm.
And I look at myself, and that was my fault. It was, firstly, we want to grow, so let's get clients. So it was very much, let's get clients.
Yeah.
You get clients in, and then it's like, well, how do you serve those clients? How
Yeah.
do you serve them well?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, we need a better structure.
Mm.
So from a very early, it looked okay on the surface,
Yeah.
but under it, I was
Peddling very hard.
really hard.
Yeah.
Well, getting clients. Then the next week, oh gosh, how did you deliver that?
Yeah.
So for me, it was very much right. I need to put that structure in place, and that structure and process is so important to the business. Yes, you need to inspire and you need to go, but unless you can deliver, I mean, as a professional service company, I can only sell my people's time. We don't make anything, which is a bit of a shame. We don't do anything apart from serve our clients. So there was no point me bringing a client on if the first member of staff they speak to was so stressed out and overwhelmed that they wouldn't give them the service. So very quickly, that's where my role was, have we got the structure and the people doing a great team in place? And are we serving our clients? Is everything working? And so very quickly, I'm not the most great HR person in the world, but it was very much inspiring a team to let them know the vision of where we're going to and inputting into that vision, so they brought into it. So when a client came in, they knew it was total support. They knew what that looked like. It was going for a long-term advice. It was making sure that you had your face-to-face meetings. Don't go online. Make sure you're proactive in that way. So we, and have that empathy with a client. So, take payroll for argument's sake. If you're a payroll person in a large corporate and you get some payroll wrong, you'll have an upset employee, but that you can get sorted. We get one of our payrolls wrong for our clients. We lose a client, and that could, really affect their business. And it's making how important our role is to our clients. So once I'd got my role sorted, everything else started to flow. Do I get it right every day? No. Have I got it written down on my desk? Yes, I have. To go, this is my role, because if I veer from my role, I get in the way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So again, within this sort of growth now of the business, you've started working with the Ryder Cup.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So no. So our real key focus is owner-managed businesses. Real business owners that have started and they're brilliant at their job. But every now and then you get an opportunity to have a bit of fun with business, and it's excellent. So we met the PGAs of Europe, and as we were serving that client, they said, would you like to come on the board for the Ryder Cup Trust, which is the way that the Ryder Cup gives 20% of its profits out. And of course, as I said yes, and now so we sit on the Ryder Cup Trust board. We look at giving the good works that the Ryder Cup does out, and you're sitting there with, a guy who's the European Tour Chief Executive, some of the player representatives, people from Europe, and it's just you pinch yourself sometimes, going, how did I go from management accountant here to this meeting here? And I look at myself, and you get to go to the Ryder Cup and that sort of things, and the players ask you, what do you do? I'm like, I'm an accountant from Tamworth, so let's not talk about me. And it's just mad that you're in that space.
Yeah. So does things like imposter syndrome kick in that sort of environment? Because you've literally gone from a boy sweeping the floor in a jewellery shop to, I assume you get to meet Rory McIlroy and all these sort of top level.
Tommy Fleetwood, all the brilliant
level.
European
players. So how have you sort of built up that resilience for when that moment happened and you start getting introduced to these people and they offer you that role?
That's a brilliant question. I think because business happens slowly, and yes, we've got clients that have great growth, but most of the growth happens by the daily grind. So, and it's really focused to keep grounded on what your focus is. So internally, fine. If I look to where I am now in my business and compare it to 2005, I would have that imposter syndrome. But because you build it up gradually, you learn how to do things. And the great thing about that is going old and great, being so much experienced, and you've seen things that happened before, so that builds your confidence. But where you're not confident at is when you do have these exciting clients, and all of a sudden you are put in those positions. You do get that imposter syndrome, just like when we looked at R&D, research and development credits. We had to learn that very quickly. Again, imposter syndrome. There we looked at when a business comes to sell. 10 years ago, we wasn't equipped to go through that process. I certainly wasn't equipped for the Ryder Cup Trust to meet all of those people. So I think the problem is at those starts. You start to think, you try to portray something you're not. You should be there in your hot shot. Whereas that's the wrong thing to do. It was very much keep grounded. We are a local firm of accountants, although I think our service is brilliant, of course I would, but we are a local firm of accountants that give great advice to local businesses and stick to that. So yes, we've got the Ryder Cup Trust. All that I'll give on there is the financial advice that I've learned. Try not to be anything that I'm not, because I think and you'll get found out. And so I think what we've managed to do is, it doesn't matter whether you're being the accountant for the Ryder Cup or a small business that's just employing its third member of staff. The problems are more or less exactly the same. Have we got enough money? Are we giving to the right things? Are we making the right decisions? And that's where I can affect. And I think, when the sort of people ask on the Ryder Cup, so which other sporting events, large of that? Yes, we do some smaller events, like some British Olympic teams and that, but nothing as the scale of that. And just be honest and go, well, but this is what I'm bringing to the party. And that came for me with experience, because I've tried to be a number of different people over the years. It just didn't work.
And I think I've seen that across the years, because my dad used to work with a lot of footballers. They're all sort of retired now, but they were the elite, the sort of Steven Gerrard, Michael Owen sort of level. But I think what they really bought into with my dad, who was a small business, just him and a couple of staff, they bought into the authenticity and the trust aspect.
Correct.
So actually, would they rather work with you, who is going to be honest and authentic, or would they rather work with, I don't know, one of the big four accountancy firms?
Yes.
Maybe they get pushed into that because of risk and things like that. But actually, if they want the authentic service, in that sort of level of elite sport or celebrity or anything like that, they are probably better off with a trusted hand rather than just a corporate accountancy firm.
No, absolutely. And they get me. And as part of our service, you are not going anywhere else. I'm not going to be suddenly taken off to another project. And that's where you're absolutely right. And the one word you said was trust. And it's building that trust, and that takes time. That takes a lot of hard work from our point of view, to whichever client to trust. But yes, but that's why I love owning a business, because who would have known? Who would have known, as you quite rightly say, we'd end up in that position?
Yeah. Again, one of the things I've really benefited from in my sort of business life is mentoring and coaching, and I think that can fill the gaps in of knowledge that's perhaps missing. Obviously, experience that the mentor brings to the table. Have you ever had someone like that you've worked with over the years?
Yes. If you'd have asked me 6-7 years ago, I'd have said, no, that's a load of rubbish. It's all fluff having that mentor. Except about 7 or 8 years ago, so a partner had left, and gosh, I was justifying some terrible decisions I was making at the time. And any decision that I make, I didn't have that. And I met someone who was very high up in the Big Four. He worked for PwC at a global level. And I happened to meet him, and that week he was retiring, and he was trying to sort out his non-exec directorships that he was getting offered from really blue chip companies. And we'd met, was having a drink. And I was telling him about my little business. And he was like, oh no, this is what you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong,
Right.
and you could do this. And what he was saying really made sense to me. And I can never remember, I'll never forget the conversation. I'll always remember it. He says, well, I'll come and help. And my face went pale. I'm an accountant at heart. I looked at him and went, I couldn't afford your fees.
Yeah,
And it came out, I thought it, and it came out my mouth.
Fair
And I
enough.
should never have done it, because I looked at him and all of a sudden panicked that I was going to be paying
Yeah.
£2,000 or £3,000 an hour. And I'll be like, oh my goodness, I'll be bust. And he must have seen the fear on my face. And he says, no, Martin. He says, you keep listening
Yeah.
and I'll keep doing.
Wow.
And that was the best conversation I ever have. So we meet up quarterly now.
Great.
And it comes into the office, or the staff know he's coming, so they know how to get out my way. And I give him my quarterly accounts,
Yeah.
my vision, my business plan,
Yeah.
where I'm going, and he'll come in and just pull it apart within and the most obvious things. And I look at it going, oh my goodness. And I come out of those meetings really inspired, really grounded in what I should be doing. So for any young business owner, or even any business owner, it's such a lonely place running a business. The staff go, your partners will go, you've sat there at night, or even not even in the office, you sat at home, you should be focusing on something else. You're thinking about work or your business all the time and how you can do it better. But there's no one else to speak to. You know, my wife's an artist, and rightly so, doesn't care about business, doesn't, you know, and I'm a complete embarrassment to her being an accountant. But
that is quite a good contrast of jobs, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's no one to speak to, and even if you're high up in a big corporate, I look back at it now, I don't understand the nitty gritty, because the numbers are so small, but they are so important. So having that mentor there, to have someone once a quarter that I now look forward to see how bad I'm doing my job, I couldn't recommend it. But again, it comes back, it's got to be someone you trust. I don't think someone could recommend a mentor to me, because I wouldn't have trust them, and that would be the worst case if someone was coming in and you didn't. So I trusted that person. They've come into the business and they're part of the team. It's been brilliant.
Fantastic.
Although I hate it.
As long as you get a lot from it,
and
it keeps you on the right path. I mean, that leads on. So you've got this mentor now giving you this great advice. Has he helped you to look at what the end game is, where you're taking all of this?
Oh yes, absolutely. And that's where you start with the end game. And I think as a business owner, really, you've got three options. I think you can sell your business on the open market, build it up and sell it. It's great. There's a lot of money that will come in, and you'll retire very well off. But perhaps the business won't be running the way that your team did. You could try and sell it to the staff and probably get paid over profits, which is the downside, is you don't get the amount of equity you would if you're selling it on the open market. However, you get to sort of, your baby's going to be run by the people that you grew up. But I've decided to go a third way, and just going back to the great career that we want to promise our staff. So over the next 10 years, I'm going to be fully involved in the business, but after that, it's going to be the trading company of Adams Moore will be given to the staff. So it's my responsibility to train that leadership team up so that they can do it. And that's partly selfish. I don't particularly want to retire fully. I would be very good at it. I definitely couldn't play golf 4 times a week. That'd fill me with dread. And I'd look for something. I do enjoy my role, and I would love to still look after some clients and almost be that mentor to the staff that are coming through. So that's my decision. I've got to build that team up so they can own the company going forward. I can be an employee, work 2 or 3 days a week, and come out to do clients. And once I'd got that decision, I quickly shared it with the staff, so it's out there.
Yeah.
And that has given us all a focus to what to do, because I think our team can see that promotion from within is there, and there is a goal. I'm happy that I'm working towards something, and I think it works. It's possibly not the best financially, but I think as a professional service company. But once I've got that, everything else the strategy can fit.
So just to sort of understand it a bit more, because usually it's either you sell it on or you get bought out by the team. Is your plan then that you make the money to fund your retirement in the 10 years then, or to still have equity beyond that?
So hopefully I'll retain a little bit of equity. The other side to Adams Moor is the property base, so our offices. So hopefully the rent, if they run it well, the rental income would stay there.
Right.
And then also try and draw a consultancy or a salary out of the business. So those are the properties are key.
Yes.
And making sure that rent can come in there. So it's not necessarily making it in the next 10 years, but it's if that team can continue grow it and the rent keeps coming in. Yeah. And I can have a small salary.
Yeah, that'll be enough for what you need.
Spot on.
No, that makes sense. That's a good model. It's a bit different to what most people do. And it's quite interesting as an accountant that's the model you've chosen, because actually you're a little bit more in the know with the numbers than a lot of other businesses. So I think that's definitely food for thought for anyone listening that potentially could go down a different model of how you exit, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's building up those assets while you're working to then almost live off them in your retirement. You know, the downside is I won't get a big lump, because our staff are very much Sutton or Tamworth, locally based. Yeah. So they're not going to buy my shares out. Yeah. But hopefully over time, you know, if I can train them as well to continue running the business on the principles that we've set out. Yeah. That's great.
I think on my business journey, something I've always found hard is sort of self-confidence. Started out very shy as a young lad, worked in telly as an editor, which meant a lot of time on your own in a dark room, you know, editing pictures together. For me then to like progress and grow the business, to have a team, to become the president of the Chamber of Commerce, to become a school governor and the chair of governors, I've started looking back on those moments now, thinking, blimey, 21-year-old Phil wouldn't have dreamed of doing some of the things that I've done like now. What's your journey been like with confidence? Have you had a natural high with confidence, or have you had to really work on it over the years?
I've had to really work on it. I was very confident as an FD in the board.
Yes.
Brilliant. That was my job. As soon as you get into business, you can be put into a situation where your confidence it can take a hit, because what you find as a business owner, by the time you speak to people, they've got issues, and you can just see how bad things are, and you're very critical when you come to a meeting and go, that wasn't very good, I could have done better there. Yeah. You don't really pat yourself on the back. So confidence is a real, was a real issue for myself. I took the approach that I can improve on it like anything else. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would say is I have gained confidence over the experiences that I've had. I think as a business owner, if you learn quickly and you're very critical of yourself, the next time that issue comes around, you're better equipped to deal with it, and therefore your confidence improves. So experience is key in business. Yeah. I absolutely, I think that. Going back to my mentor, I was quite low on confidence. You know, we hadn't won a couple of clients that I perhaps should have won. And he said something to me, he says, Martin, not everyone's going to like you, you know. Yeah. And having said that and going, okay, our clients will love us. They will really go, and they will get on. No, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and neither is my staff. And that was really liberating. It doesn't mean we don't care. But if someone doesn't want to come on board with us or buy into what we want to do for them, and that's okay. That there are other accountants that will do great jobs, and that was really, so it's the most obvious thing to say when you're saying it now, but it was really revolution for me. That just outward going, okay, you don't, you're not going to get on with us.
Yeah.
That's okay. It doesn't make me any less of an accountant
Yeah.
that someone goes elsewhere. And I think finally it's, I've always had this mantra, and especially grown up around sports and business and school, never been the best. But actually, if you can work hard enough, that will compensate for that lack of talent.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in that. So I think I myself and my staff will always suffer with that lack of confidence. But there's a phrase I use in the office, which is get caught trying that. And if one of the staff are trying to resolve a problem, genuinely trying their best to serve the clients, that's okay.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, we'll deal with that. And I think I've learnt from that as well. If I'm trying to do something, trying to win a client, putting yourself out there, for us as an accountant, social media or the sales or the operational side, let's get caught trying to do something rather than hiding back. And it's a hard state to get into, but the more you do it and the more that you do uncomfortable things, your confidence grows. But absolutely. And the worst thing about business, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
So having that inner confidence is absolutely key. But I genuinely believe it's something you can learn. The trouble is you learn painfully because you learn from mistakes.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's just drawing a line under that and moving on, and we'll try that again.
One of the things I hear a lot from business owners is burnout. You know, they've been burning the candle at both ends. They're constantly thinking about strategy as well as trying to do the day-to-day delivery and always looking at the numbers. Is that something you've ever suffered from in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's partly when you learn off other business owners, our clients. We are all the same. You know, you do your job in the week, and then the weekends strategy, looking at how you go. And it's personal, so it matters. But what you can then become is very stale. You can become very short-tempered. And, you know, I have caught myself in my weakest moments going, well, you don't know what it's like to stay up all weekend. Well, what relevance is that to the staff? That's not giving them any benefit or anything. But that's when you can tell you are struggling with burnout. And again, it's learning the coping mechanisms. So it's a great family, two kids, and Anna, my wife, is when I'm with them, I am completely present. And if that means putting the phone away and the laptop, they're really good that I'll go, right, I've got to work tonight, but we'll have dinner. And then I'll go back to work. But for that dinner, whether it's half an hour or an hour, you are 100% present.
Good philosophy, yeah.
And then obviously I've got some really good mates who I've known since school, really. And so we'll go out on a Wednesday night for 2 beers because we can't have any more than that. And I think that's really important. They don't care what I do, and because we're still kids, so we talk utter rubbish. And that for me is that just release in the week, just to go, it doesn't matter whether it's going well or it's going badly. They don't care. You know, obviously if I was in struggle, they would. But again, I don't take the phone to the pub. The laptop's at home. I go there and we have 2 beers and talk utter rubbish. And it's having those little oases of out of the business. So, you know, if we do go out on a Saturday, I'm out on a Saturday. You know, it frustrates the kids that I haven't got my phone with me, but that's my coping. So it's trying to do that. Do I always do it? No. Do I have dinner when I'm thinking about, there's a problem? Have I picked up my phone at 10:30 just before going to bed, and there's an email from a client going, I know I shouldn't have read that. So you don't get it right, but I think you have got to have something outside. It can't be all about the business because you become very dull. And I say that as an accountant. So you imagine the levels there.
So is there a piece of advice that you wish someone had told you much earlier in your career that might have changed your pathway?
Well, I've mentioned that not everyone's going to like you, but this is not the most exciting answer, but I think it's really true that I think you're onto a real winner if, as a business owner or any job really, you turn up, you work hard, and you front up. And what I mean by front up, you know, clearly I've mentioned in our business, it's giving staff great careers and clients great service.
Mhm.
Sometimes they don't. They're at opposite ends. You know,
Yeah.
we might have a client phone up, complain about a member of staff. So they are opposites sometimes. My job is to front up and sort that.
Yeah.
And I think early in my career, I go, I don't really want to deal with that. I haven't got the confidence, or I haven't.
Mhm.
It's a difficult conversation. So actually, I'll work on the spreadsheet and not deal with it. My fronting up and dealing with that client, speaking to that member of staff, getting on the phone to that client and saying, right, what is the problem? Because it's very rarely personality. Something's gone wrong, generally a process, which is probably my issue, or, you know, that one of my staff's too busy to deal with that client. Fronting up and dealing with that. And the more you deal with it, the easier it gets from a business perspective. So, you know, if we've got a member of staff that's not performing, you've got to deal with it. It's awful.
Yeah.
But if you want to run your own business, learning how to turn up, front up, and work hard is, I think, key. And it's horrible. But again, that you've really got a good solid base for a business then.
So, final question then. So, what's next for you, and how does that sort of push you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, absolutely. So, firstly, as I'm getting older,
Mhm.
keeping that positive attitude within the business and positive
Yeah.
nature as you get older. That sometimes doesn't always come out, but that's really, really key. For us, the challenge is we're now multi-offices.
Yeah.
And what I've found very early on, keeping that culture and that team spirit is very much on me.
Yeah.
To try and deliver that there's not that them and us.
Right. Okay.
And within that culture, to make sure that the service to our clients is kept at that level we're supposed to do. And as the business gets bigger, clients aren't interested in that. They want to know that their personal service is there and it's delivering that personal service from a much larger client base. And for me, really, yes, there's work into that end strategic goal we've talked about, but keep learning from clients is something I love doing every day. So those are absolutely my focus for the next, well, probably 10, 15 years. That's where we've got to go. But multi-office is something that I'm not very good at the minute.
Right.
But in 5 years,
Good
I hope to
challenge
be.
there.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Martin.
Thank you, Phil. That's really
enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Reluctant CEO, and please join us next time.